time to take a look at your latest article, Michael, that's up at VSiN.com. The Los Angeles Rams, a season after winning the Super Bowl, bottomed out last year, 5-12, lots of injury issues with this team. What inspired you to write about them this week?
Because I was thinking about them, and as you go on vacation, last year I was having this thought about Seattle without a quarterback. How could they go on vacation? And yet, little did I know Geno Smith was there to play really well. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about the Rams and all the things that involved. And so I got their roster out, and I broke down their roster, and I started going through who's actually on their team. Because I think if you ask most casual fans, after you get past Haverstein, the right tackle, Noteboom, the left tackle, and, Von Jefferson and Cooper Kupp, I mean, there's very few guys you can just roll off the top of your tongue, right? Mm-hmm. So then I started looking at their roster, and I saw that they have just about 40 guys who have 1 year or less experience. Now, what does that mean? That means they've never played an NFL game. They've tried out. The 1 year guys mean you try out. When you earn a season, you go from rookie to two. Ones are when they never make a team. So they got 40 of those guys. They got 40 guys that have basically that they drafted. They haven't picked higher in Sean McVay's career since his first draft, which was 42, until last year when they picked 36. And then it got me on this memory lane kick where, having written Football Done Right, I talk about George Halas and his fight with George Allen when George Allen was an assistant coach for him, and George Allen just wanted to take the Rams job but tried to backdoor Halas to get it, and they went to court. And even though Halas won the court settlement, he then walked up to the judge and said, after he told his lawyers, "I got this, Charlie." He said, I dropped the case. So he let Allen go. And then Allen started the Future Is Now revolution for the Rams back then. Mm-hmm. And the Rams then started it 40 years later. And so it kind of got me on that kick. And then when I really dug deep into it and studied it and then watched the games and studied some tape, I got me to the conclusion that where are they? Where are they going? And with Matthew Stafford, it's going nowhere. He has not been very good. And so what are they doing? You could say last year, well, they lost Stafford. They were 3-6 with Stafford. When he played against good defenses, he averaged 6 yards of completion. And those good defenses would be the 49ers twice and the Cowboys. I mean, they barely scored over 20 points. And so, where are they going? And it's only going to be worse this year.
Yeah, and to your point about the stuff with Allen, we always talk about history being destined to repeat itself. And this time it worked out for the Los Angeles Rams. They won their Super Bowl, but now what is there left? I liked the comparison you did here, saying the Rams are the NFL version of the Phoenix Suns. They have 3 or 4 outstanding players and have to fill the rest of their roster with young, unproven talent. And even those proven talent and those big commodities, to your point with Matt Stafford, dealing with injuries. And I feel like Stafford and Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and then even Sean McVay, 3 of those 4 have talked more about retirement, I feel like, than they have about football the last 2 years.
No question. And so, okay, we're a betting network. It all comes back to betting, right? Are you betting them to go their over win total? I mean, how do they not go under? Here's my question to you is, if you're running the Rams and you start out slow, the only asset you really have that's worth anything to rebuild this thing is Aaron Donald. Everybody would love to have Cooper Kupp on their team, but they're not. If he's not playing well, it's because he's coming off of 2 surgeries. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants Stafford because of that money in that contract. So, what other asset do you have that you could recoup and gain some picks? I mean, they had to sell Jalen Ramsey at such a reduced rate. It was ridiculous. So at what point during this season, if it falls low, do you just say, we're starting Stetson Bennett and Aaron Donald is up for trade? Would you do that?
I think that they should, which honestly brings up an interesting question that I want to know your opinion on, because they went all in for the Super Bowl. We all know the F them picks thing, and regret saying it the way that he did, but I understand that they need to rebuild from the ground up, it feels like. But if you're a fan or an employee of the team, the goal every single year is to win a Super Bowl. They did that. Would you rather be a team that is in the hunt every single year, has an opportunity to play for Super Bowls but never wins it, or be in the Rams situation where they won the Super Bowl, but they're probably going to be bad for a while now, and that fan base is going to go through it.
Well, I think the reason that it's gotten this dark is because, remember, before McVay gets there, they trade all those picks for Jared Goff. They go up to 1. They're still I think they were still the St. Louis Rams when they made that trade. Maybe they were just becoming the Los Angeles Rams. But they trade up, and then the Eagles trade up to get Carson Wentz, 1-2. How'd that work out for? I mean, Goff actually started to play well, and then they extend Goff's contract. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was friends with a bunch of the Ram coaches, and I'm like, are you sure Goff is good? Because I don't see it. I think Goff's a play-action pass quarterback who doesn't play well in cold weather. He's not really tough. Oh, yeah, Goff's our guy. He's our guy. He's going to be great. Yeah. Well, eventually they end up coming around to me, and when they decided to trade for Matthew Stafford, it was because they realized we can't make Goff any better. I think the play that got Goff traded was the interception to Stephon Gilmore in the Super Bowl, where if he holds the ball a second later, it's a touchdown to Brandon Cooks. He didn't. And so that got him traded. And I think so then they had to regroup. So then they had to trade more picks, right? They had to trade more picks to then get Stafford. So they dig the hole even deeper. And then the Todd Gurley taking away the cap. And then the Brandon Cooks. How many times have they spent money? Allen Robinson. They got to trade. They're eating $10 million of the contract. So, I think they've made so many mistakes in terms of start, stop, that the hole has gotten deeper than it should have.
Yeah, but again, if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, you got that. And so you have to kind of pay the repercussions after that. And largely because of that, I think the trade worked out for what they needed, to where Matt Stafford led them to a Super Bowl, and Jared Goff, it was kind of mutually beneficial that the Lions are doing what they have, and Jared Goff has been a key piece of that. For the Rams, as you mentioned, their season win total sitting at 6.5, coming off that 5-win year. Where they stand in the NFC West, though, as we talked about a little bit earlier with how rough we anticipate the Cardinals being, their win total even lower at 4.5. Do you foresee this division shaking out the way that it's laid out in terms of the odds, where it'll be San Francisco finishing first, followed by the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals? Do you think there could be a little shakeup at the top? Could Seattle and Geno Smith maybe knock off the 49ers from the top of the mountain? How do you view this division?
Well, I mean, I like Seattle's team a lot. I do. I think they're closer than people think. I think the Rams are closer to the Cardinals than they are to the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And
there's a big disparity in the middle of this division.
Right. And so, if I'm the Rams and I've gone all in, it might be the time to go all out. Because I could get Caleb Williams if I get the first pick of the draft. And you put Caleb Williams on this team going into next year, it could be the rebuild's going to not take as much time.
Right.
So to me, the Stafford 50, you make the point, was it worth it? Yes. But you didn't have to give Stafford $59 million. You didn't have to give up that contract. At some point, you could have protected the future, but they didn't. And then they tried to trade him, and they pretended, we're not trading him. Hell, if they weren't trying to trade him, it was negligence.
Michael, who would benefit most, you think, by being able to draft Caleb Williams?
I think the Rams would, because they need to put people that they need still. The reason they've gone all in is because of the stadium, right? Because, when you live in L.A. and you're the Rams, you're behind the Lakers, you're behind the Dodgers, you're behind USC, and that title kind of got them some ground, right? Carved out some turf in Los Angeles. If they sink lower, oh boy.
The Rams, where things sit right now in the division, a 9-1 shot to win the NFC West feels very unlikely, especially with what you just said, them being closer to the bottom of the division than the middle there with the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks win total set at 8.5. They're a 2-1 shot to win the NFC West. The 49ers, an odds on -165 favorite, win total sitting at 10.5.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.